Blip. So a very specific focus done by Kamana Mathur, who is from Pittsburgh, and then Bakhti Khaskhali from Thailand. And so they're going to be giving both a personal and academic viewpoint. So please enjoy.
Share with you my experiences and my thoughts on the education issues in Sindh and possible solutions. And then after that, Ms. Bakhti Khaskhali, who is a teacher who grew up in Sindh and was educated in Sindh, will share her personal experiences as a woman trying to get an education and trying to get a job in Sindh. So I hope that I understand there's going to be a panel later on education specifically. And I hope that this might provide a little bit of food for thought and some different ideas to share. Okay? To start, by the way, I knew very little about Sindh and Sindhis until about 5 years ago when I married a Sindhi. When I was growing up and very wealthy. So it came as quite a shock to me. All right. Now I'm just going to basically talk about some of the statistics. Education in Sindh and in Pakistan overall is abysmal. These are some statistics I've pulled from various sources that basically over 50% of the population over 10 have never attended school. It's the adult literacy is 160 out of 0.74 nations, and only 66% is within 2004 if children began primary school. And that 1 in 5 villages had no school at all. And part of the reason was poor infrastructure and unmotivated teachers. And this is a problem throughout Pakistan, but even more severe and more aggravated in the province of Sindh. Now, here are some of the causes, I believe, for the problem and some solutions. The education budget, I guess, the Pakistan government has not made education a priority. It's one of the lowest 10 education budgets in the world. And apparently there's no right to a free education, I believe, beyond age 9. There's huge issues with corruption. There's the issue of closed schools and teachers who just do not show up but are on the payroll. There was an estimate that there were 30,000 of those schools that were there on paper but did not exist. And the teachers are just not motivated and not trained. And there's really not much of an education going on in the classroom, even if the teachers do show up. And then there's the issue of, because of extreme poverty, the children who are working and therefore are breadwinners and therefore not sent to school because they're actually contributing to the family income. And then, of course, there are huge income disparity in Sindh and in Pakistan, where the poor really can't afford an education. Because if you want to get a decent education, you have to pay for private school. And there are other issues such as distance, and the schools are not located near where people live. But I'll discuss this later. I just wanted to say there's a lot of assistance going right now towards Pakistan. It's being doubled and tripled, even U.S. assistance, and of course assistance from other countries. And so this is an opportunity to decide where we want to use the funds and how we want to use them. Now, the government has recognized, and that's the good news, the government has recognized the importance of education and the importance of education of women. And so there have been some recent initiatives to achieve, they've at least said they want to achieve universal primary education by 2015 and make education for all a reality. And therefore there have been some increases in literacy from 35% to 53%. There has been an increase in primary school enrollment, and they're predicting an 85% nationwide literacy by 2015 and 100% enrollment. And also there's been an effort to eradicate gender inequality. Sorry, I should have said inequality, I wrote equality. But basically, these are things that the government and other organizations have recognized that there's a problem, and they want to do something about it. Yes, this is what we need to do, and actually translating it into reality. And then that's the challenge before us now. And some of these the achievements, the things that have been achieved have not really trickled down to Sindh. They've been more in other areas of Pakistan. Now, there is a gender gap in education all over Pakistan, particularly in Sindh, and even in Sindh, it's more pronounced in rural areas. And so here, again, some statistics I pulled out. For example, in 44 Sindhi communities, there was 66% boys as well as boys, as opposed to 47% girls. And this was in urban areas. In rural areas, it was even worse. And the problem of female literacy is that many of these women were not even able to sign their name, let alone read and write. There are a lot of reasons for the gender gap. I mean, first of all, there's the issue of religious fundamentalism, the issue that parents just don't want the girls to go out in the streets, they're afraid for their safety or for other reasons. And then the concept of value. I mean, in order to encourage female activities, families have to realize that this is important. And if there's a lack of jobs and they don't see that this is going to help the girls and help the families, they're not going to make the time and effort to send their kids to school, and especially spend the money on their daughter's education. Because there's a perception in our culture, and I mean our culture, because even in India, it's the same perception, that a woman's role is to cook and raise kids. I mean, just an example, my father was a highly educated individual, but after I got my bachelor's degree, he didn't want me to get a master's. He said, now you get an MA in cooking and household work. I mean, basically learn how to do that. So I went on and got my law degree later on as an adult while working full time. So that's a perception. And another issue is the lack of female teachers in Pakistan. I mean, most families do not want to send their girls to school with a male teacher. And it's dramatic because only 30% of the teachers in Pakistan are female. Well, about 90% in most other countries. And the sad news is that Pakistan has been ranked 105 out of 134 in the Human Development Index. That was in 2006. And I've just given a quote down there that men's negative attitude toward the education of their daughters and sisters or their wives reflects their deep-rooted fear that education will lead women to become independent and uncontrollable if they start demanding too much. And that there's some truth there. I think there is that perception. Now, there are many factors, again, in children's education, but a parent's education is a very important factor. And there was a study done in which it was determined that if the mother had at least a fifth grade education, the children were 3 times more likely to attend school. And they also were able to help the children with the homework. And they reinforced education. They realized the importance of it to have at least an elementary education. And in rural areas of Sindh, 87% of mothers have less than a 4th grade education. I guess that's all of Pakistan. It's a country study that was done by the Library of Congress. So, there comes the issue of why do we need to educate women? I mean, they can totally clean without getting a bachelor's or a master's degree. Why should women be educated? I just put in a quote here that I liked by the no society has ever liberated itself economically, politically, or socially without a sound base of educated women. Not only are the children of women with a 100% more likely to attend school, according to a recent study, it has significant benefits. Health and nutrition of children, lower infant mortality. Their studies have been done that show a very direct link to that, and also it helps economic growth as well. It not only helps the woman and the family, but actually spurs economic growth. And there have been studies that have been done that I was involved with as well in different parts of the world that clearly showed the more educated the woman, the better that the society as a whole is economically. For example, I'm just quoting 2 of them. There have been many, many studies. There was a study of 63 countries that said 43% of the progress in reducing child malnutrition was directly related to women's education. And also there was a World Bank study done across 100 countries that found 1% increase in women's education generated 23% increase in economic growth. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the government has drafted a national education policy to achieve universal education by 2015. And these statistics I mentioned earlier, that they want to eradicate gender equality. Now, I'm going to give you 2 or 3 studies that I've seen about women's education and just discuss how perhaps they could be implemented or whether they should be implemented in Sindh. There was a study in Bangladesh done. In 1994, they created a female stipend program, which was later on implemented nationwide. And they were actually funding or giving money directly to girls who attended school. And of course, there's always the issue of what happens to the money. So they were very, they started bank accounts in the girls' names, made sure that money directly went for the education and could not be used for other purposes. They did a huge publicity campaign, and they were able to get funding from all over the world because they were able to show not only that where the money would be going, but they had checks and balances to make sure it went for the right cause, and there was a lot of transparency in terms of the accounting. So they were able to get a lot of funding from all over. They emphasized recruiting and training of women teachers because there were not enough women teachers, and worked on improving the quality and setting quality standards throughout all the schools. And management committees were formed that would oversee the implementation of this so that, okay, the money is being spent, but is it being spent correctly? And are the teachers up to par? Is actual education going on in the classrooms? There were a huge checks and balances in terms of, determining what's happening with the money and making sure that actually girls were learning and girls were coming to school. And if girls did not come, they were kicked out of the program because there were attendance requirements, grade requirements, and they were required to remain unmarried and finished. And so it was a very, very successful program because prior to the program implementation, only 1 in 5 students in the school were female. After that, the number of girls was equal to or greater than the number of boys. And in grades 1 to 5, 49.7% of the students are female and 53.4% from 6 to 10. And currently, 95% of girls are enrolled in primary education, and it doubled every year since 1994. So it's had outstanding results. The issue, of course, becomes, is Pakistan and Sindh able to do something like that, where they have, they can generate the interest, the international interest in funding such a program and encouraging girls to come and attend school. And there's always the issue, okay, well, how long can you keep giving the money? I believe that monetary incentives go only so far, because if you were to later take away the monetary incentives, they may not go, unless you're able to convince the family and the parents of the value of education, which is, I think, fundamental. Now, here's some projects in Pakistan. There's it's called the Daryan Mambian Project, and it was a USAID-funded project, which was under the program RISE project, which was called Revitalizing, Innovating, and Strengthening Education. And they focused on monitoring the quality of education. They started school management committees, which were very, very much involved in making sure, overseeing the management of the schools, that the teachers were coming, that the quality and training of the teachers was up to par. And there was teacher accountability. If you did not come and show up for work, if you did not teach at a certain standard, they got rid of you. And another very important aspect of this was encouraging family and community involvement, going out and talking to the community. If some families were not sending girls to school, someone would go out there and say, you should send them, and this is the reason why. And the interesting thing that I found about this was there's a woman named Gul Laila, and she was an illiterate domestic servant. She never had any education. And she was appointed to head the management committee, which was very interesting, because she was because she didn't have an education, but she realized the value of it. So she would go to these schools and she would say, hey, why aren't the teachers coming? Why not? She would go out to people's homes and say, send your daughter here. I didn't get an education, so I'm a domestic servant. see what your girls will be able to do to get an education. And as a result, a female enrollment doubled from 40 to 80. So something like that is I think, very effective. Then there was an NGO which launched a program throughout Pakistan, and these two were in Sindh, Khairpur 1 and Khairpur 2, where they opened 21 schools in Khairpur 1, and with an enrollment of over 2,000 students, and then there were 31 schools in Khairpur 2. What they did, again, they focused on community involvement, getting buy-in, going out to the families and the communities and say why you need an education, or why you need to send your children to school. They set up village education committees so these people would have a say. They wouldn't just, okay, we're coming out, we're throwing money at you and you do whatever you want. No, what do you want? What do you want to see? And they had a very robust monitoring program at 3 levels, at the local level, at the regional level, and at the national level. So I know there's widespread corruption, but if there are 3 levels, if there is something going on, if teachers are not showing up, it's going to be caught, it's going to be reported. And there was complete financial transparency. They had to report where the money was going. And interestingly, just to mention, everyone thinks that the only way to solve a problem is to throw lots and lots of money at it. They had several projects that were, there was an investment as little as $1,500. There was a school just outside of, I believe, Islamabad, where in 2005, they went out to the community and said, we have this money, how do you want to spend it? And they said, we want a school. We want a library for our school. And we want a parent-teacher committee, we want to be involved. And with that money, with that grant, they did start a library. Attendance in the school went up drastically. I think it was 6 or 7-fold. And the parent-teacher committee was very active in demanding that the children got an education, as they do in other parts of the world. So again, another key point is again the community involvement and buy-in by the community. Now, there are many ways you can try to improve education. Of course, getting qualified teachers, training the teachers, going out and talking to the community, and encouraging families to send their children. But one idea that I had, or we had, was, and perhaps we will introduce something like this through my nonprofit, is encourage more computer-based education, because I understand lack of qualified teachers is a huge, huge issue. And there have been so many dramatic improvements in computer education that there are programs. There are currently some projects that I'm aware of in India where computer-based education was introduced, even at the very elementary level, in terms of learning language, learning English skills, and kids really love that. I mean, even if you're from a poor, illiterate family and you've never seen a computer and don't know what it is, you get that. And they were interested, they were wanted to work with it, and their English language skills improved drastically. And these were children of parents who were illiterate and didn't speak a word of English. And school attendance just rose through the roof because people wanted to come and work on that computer and be able to use the software. And the advantage of computer-based education is that it can be tailored to each individual student's skill level. Now again, this is nothing new, but I think that this is something that has been very effective in the past to teach language, to teach basic skills. And that way, there's a little bit of standardization too in terms of quality. And besides, in today's world, if you're not computer literate and you don't have a basic knowledge of English, you can't compete globally. You can't. Jobs are scarce. If you want to, ultimately the goal of an education, I mean one of the goals, I won't say the only goal, is to be able to get a job and be economically independent. And these days, having computer literacy and basic knowledge of English is going to be essential. Now again, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but again, it's important to link education with income generation, and there were various ideas for doing that. Perhaps starting a incubator program in different countries where teachers could come and learn about how to be effective teachers and go back and be placed in various schools, or work with local NGOs and other organizations. So what do you want? What kind of skills do you want in people that you hire, and try to provide those educational opportunities. The other thing I was going to mention, because in India it's a huge thing, is the outsourcing boom brought a lot of money into the country, and of course the situation, especially the socio-political situation in Pakistan, is different, and it may not necessarily be a solution for Pakistan. But again, if you have computer and English skills, you can possibly do some work in other parts of the world as well. So I think that, again, English and computer skills are key to providing economic viability and employment opportunities. Now, the issue always becomes whenever you suggest any programs is how you pay for it. Now, there's a lot of support and a lot of money going into Pakistan. It's one of the biggest recipients of USAID. USAID has been increasing it. They've requested $59.9 billion, which is a 9% increase over 2009, and aid is to be doubled by 2015. And for education, there's a separate set aside. So what I'm saying is that there is money. Now, again, one can always say we need more and more money, but it's a question of using whatever money you have effectively. As I mentioned before, there was a grant for only $1,500. It made a huge difference. So it depends on how you use the money. There is money out there, and but what I wanted to say is one shouldn't only expect money to come from outside. I think there are a lot of very wealthy Sindhis out there who need to go and try to see what they can do to help, even educating one Sindhi girl who can later on go and use her education to educate another Sindhi girl can make a huge difference. I mean, we have to stop looking outside for a solution and look for a solution inside, within the region, within Sindh. And so, as I said, change begins at home. There has to be buy-in. There has to be individual accountability and financial transparency. If we want to get money from outside, we will have to do that, because no one wants to keep pouring money if they don't know where the money is going. And as I mentioned earlier, a small amount can go a long way, and we've got to create standards, improve monitoring, and corporate incentives for these funds. And again, it's the educated Sindhis and the moneyed Sindhis who need to take the lead in this, instead of saying U.S. government or UK government come and help us. That's not the way things work. So again, Sindhis must accept responsibility for the region's success. Now I'm going to turn the floor over to my colleague here, Bakhti Khaskhali, and she is has several degrees from Sindh. She has a bachelor and master's in zoology and a master of business administration from the University of Sindh, and also a teaching English as a second language degree from Thailand. She's studying teaching in Thailand.
My name is Ms. Bakhti Khaskhali, and I think it will be good if I talk in English, because there are so many people, I want them to understand me. I've been living in Thailand since 5 years. Yeah, I did many bachelor degrees, master's degrees, but I didn't know what I'm doing. Whoever was sending me, like my dad said, please do this degree. I said, okay, why not? And my uncle said, do this, and whatever I did, bachelor's, master's degrees, I was unable to get a job because I was not even able to speak in English or even use English or even good in my own field. I did bachelor's in zoology and then computer science. I was unable to use emails or whatever. Then I moved to Thailand. I faced so many problems in my family. I was forced to marry in my village, but I fight for that, and I said, I don't want to. And somehow I disappeared or whatever. I got some support through emails. This is just, I'm giving you my example that how I've been facing these problems in my life. I was prisoned for 1 year at my home. I was forced to marry with my cousin, but I decided what is my career and what I want to do, and I've been fighting for that. And now I'm at that stage that I feel proud of myself. I've been listening many people, oh, Khaskhali की छोकरी बाहर मुल्क में थी रहे Khaskhali पढ़ना है अच्छा. So that is not a matter. We need to come out of these zat things, that casting, that okay, this is Mehman, this is Khaskhali or whatever. Then people are worried, how she been living in Thailand alone? What do you eat? They call me especially, and then, are you careful of the food? Do you go out and this? And I've been listening many things, but I've been just ignoring them. Okay, I know what is my aim and what I have to do. Thanks to these moderators and thanks to these people who gave me opportunity. I'm not a leader, I don't work for any party, and I'm not a big person. But at least like they've been motivating me a lot to come here and show them that what I have been doing in my life. So I did masters, and then I've been applying many jobs in Pakistan, but I think like they don't need me or whatever, but I couldn't get a job. But right now I'm working nicely in Thailand. Since 3 years I'm now teaching English as a second language, and which is also surprising that a Sindhi girl teaching English is somewhere else out of the country. So my aim to talk here is that why not, like I agree with Adisha Gupta, like People's Party do not have a Jadoo Ki Chhadi that they just change the word. How about we people who are sitting in abroad study and we are not useful like for our own nation? Why not, we prefer to work at the gas station in like £5 or whatever, but we never want to go back because we are scared of security. How about anybody can kill us here too? So for my thing, I came with some support, but I want to motivate 2-3 girls to move to Thailand first, because I know it's easy to get a visa, it's easy to get education, it's cheaper there, instead of like coming to London or US where you've been facing so many problems. And also I would like to talk, because our following topic is on education, so I think we will be talking more about that. But I want to talk that we only focus on the primary education, right, in NGOs. So many NGOs are working. They are giving like so many kind of things to people. I've been working for an NGO, and their policy was give a bag of oil and people will send their children. And yeah, they were with this person in that institute in UK or US, which can provide students the initial living cost or whatever, even just to suggest and guide them that where to go. And like as Kamana suggested, that our teachers at Pakistan are not motivated. Yeah, because we do not have any knowledge. We just go hit 2-3 children at the school and come back. Because that is my experience. I've been doing that after 2 master degrees. After doing masters in Thailand is also, they don't know. They are charias. They don't know anything. That how to speak, what to do. We are so brilliant. We have good mind. We can use that. But these people are still organized. They know what to do. The country is so neat and they have so much unity. They motivate their culture. Our problem, we are talking about different issues, everything. But the basic thing is women's education. We have to focus on women's education. In this conference, I would say, I just met a person this morning. I don't even remember his name, but he is studying here. And he said, in my life, in 1 year of UK, I just met 2 Sindhi girls. I said, this is your fault. He said, what is my fault? How can I find Sindhi girls? I said, don't go to others' homes. Just find from your own home, your own community. Bring girls from your home, your sisters. How about this conference? There are so many Sindhis. They did not bring anyone, any lady, that they can share their own feelings. They can share their feelings and we can get ideas from them. I'm not expert in the education field, but at least, yeah, I want to change the curriculum. These are my just suggestions to change the curriculum, to change the teaching methodology, and at least train our teachers that what to teach, how to teach. We can have some kind of institute, or just go in any country, get a teaching training, because I have so many B.Ed, M.Ed or CT or whatever degrees, I don't know how to use them. I'm keeping them with them because I spent money in Pakistan and got them, but I don't know how to use them. Thanks, that's all. Any question? I'm in front of you.
Excuse me, what projects you are running for the primary education in Sindh, particularly in Sindh?
In Sindh, we haven't started any projects, but we're working on conceptualizing something like this, the computer and English training, and then of course we have to get funding, and that's in the works right now, but it's not started yet. Right now, we don't have any projects in Sindh.
Kamana, you spoke about the use of computers.
Yes.
How does it, sort of apply in a very poor, poverty-stricken rural area? How can sort of where internet, even electricity is not there?
Well, you can get generators. I know in India, even in the villages, they have schools have the generators. But and that's what funding can go towards, is setting up some infrastructure, at least in the schools. But the interesting thing is, I always thought, children of illiterate kids, they won't adapt to a computer, but they just took to it like ducks to water. I mean, they just.
I agree with that.
They make these computers specifically for teaching children in rural areas that are solar adapted. They're bright, they're colorful, they're rounded edges, so that the kid looks at it as a toy, but it teaches.
All those planets, they used to have turbans, and women used to have burqas, beads, covered from head to toe. And within 60 years, not even 60 years, within 40 years with education, they liberated generation. Now they are running congresses, government offices, that's engaging big roles. And this hasn't happened in all those countries which were colonized by other Europeans. The October Revolution did it. One must give that credit. Just do it. Then coming to USAID assistance and problem with NGOs, because USAID assistance, it awarded first to some major, top-notch NGOs of Washington who subcontract local NGOs. And in Sindh, NGO culture is very weak, and most NGOs are extremely corrupt. I know some. Here, many people, they criticize, what's that one thing project? Left bank, irrigation project. RBOD, which has caused so much loss, so many serious problems. So who was involved? Who were consultants to this project? Our own Sindhi people. They themselves, I know them, some of them are friends, supposedly. But let me give you the subcontractor. My ex-wife headed one of the health education organization. She was vice president, head of the working on Shankar course. And this was 1984. A project was awarded to her office through the Confrence population principles in Dubai. And so together we traveled to Pakistan to implement that project. Project was to have population control policies in one of the most deprived Sindh areas of the country. Both of us were there. Prime Minister Junaid was in the office there. I had some friends in the office. It was so difficult for us to locate a local organization. And finally, the government pressure, one organization in Karachi agreed to implement. Carol went, she visited Liari, those areas, very deprived from the military area, and she chose that area as target. We returned back to Washington, and organization never communicated, never submitted any implementation plan. So then Carol's one of our officers was visiting Pakistan, and they asked her if we look after the project. The office was straightforward to implement this project in a non-Sindh area in Karachi.
And 2000 years was in my eyes. Brilliant student, really good. Some of them even got PhD. They can't get a job as a clerk in a bank. But that's another issue. It's got nothing to do with they're not qualified. They became qualified, they went to Moscow, another place to become qualified. They returned over there to their job, but they're not given a job. That is a issue which you do with that. before I begin into that issue, your idea of monitoring and mentoring the student is a very good idea, and educating the educator. The question is, when the educator does not want to educate the student, it's the issue. Right? How do you think about students are very the student as a child? The first thing the Urdu speaking teachers told us, you Baloch, how you are going to study? You don't even know the language. Yeah? The day when the Urdu became the language, when all language was Baluchi, when we were told you cannot practice your language, even for the Sindhis, I remember in one stroke of the pen, Sindhi intellectual became illiterate because the language of the office became Urdu, of the judges and so on and so forth. You have to take the thing fundamentally from the beginning. What is it then? What you are doing here, you're criticizing yourself. You're not looking at the real issue. These figures of the education, the ghost schools and so on, is it equally in all provinces, or is it dominant in certain provinces? Then you have to ask the question, why? Pakistan as a country was created by the colonial imperial Britain. Pakistan itself practices policy of colonialism. If you carry out your research, you will find in Sindh, in Balochistan, these problems are prevail. Level of type of the schools, level of education in different provinces, you need to look at them and compare. Only then, in every society there will be bigots. In every society there will be people who won't allow it. Okay? When the state implements a policy to keep a certain nation backward, that is a different issue altogether. And this is what Pakistan is about. Sindhis, before the Pakistan creation, they had their own newspapers. Yes? They had their own businesses and so on. All this was taken over. Stroke of a pen. Simplest stroke of a pen. School was shut down. I remember when I was young in Karachi. The debate was, now the new Urdu school is open, should we go to that one or should we go to the old Sindhi school? There was confusion. Okay? And this confusion was created. You guys are fighting how you're going to improve your women's education and so on and so forth. You cannot do it in a colonial environment. You can do your best. You struggle. I have struggled. My friends, as I said, some of them are cooking fish on the street just to feed their family. Guys with the degrees in their hand, what are they going to do? They're going to pick up the gun. The PPP government, with the stroke of a pen, banned a Baloch government in Pakistan in 1972 on the basis of what? You cannot control smuggling. Tell me how many tons of heroin comes out of Pakistan each year. On that basis, the whole Pakistan should be dissolved. Yeah? That's your premises again. Today, just a couple of weeks ago, operation taking place in Balochistan by the PPP government. Okay? So when you look at these issues, how a child is going to study when there is no food in the house, when he's got no clothes on his back, okay? When he sees his mother pulling water out of the well, yeah? When you resolve all these infrastructural issues, then you can talk about whether it is. Pakistan is controlled by establishment. This establishment consists of the Punjabi army, the Urdu speaking controlling the administrative body. Okay? Under these colonial policies, Sindh and Balochistan, even to the extent north of frontier, will never develop. Because all they want to do is get out the raw material out of there. If you go into Punjab, even in the villages you have post office, you have roads. If you go, for example, in Makran, a woman gets pregnant, she will travel 1,200 miles to get to Karachi to give birth. So the question of a computer and so on does not arise. You have your PC or whatever, what are you going to fire it with? By the way, the generators, Pakistan is doing a new law, is already in there, saying if you use generator, you will be charged industrial rate.
Well, I would think schools as educational institutions would be exempt from that. And I agree with you, economic and political reform must go side by side with educational reform. It cannot operate in isolation. So I'm sure this will be discussed later on in the other...
In a half an hour, we're meeting again to discuss education in both Sindh and Balochistan. So, but we only